Aum Gangadipataye Namaha. Namaste. So I want to wind up this little series on karma with some personal recollections and examples. And I especially want to highlight how karma changes as you go up the levels of the Chaturdarshanam. Okay? Remember, for a pashu, for an animalistic human being, every little bit of karma manifests. They don't get a break on anything. And if you look at their charts, it's very interesting from an astrological point of view. You can always tell a pashu by their chart because they have no auspicious, no beautiful yogas or anything in the chart that will mitigate the impact of their karma. So what happens is they have to go through every little lesson, like grind through every little point of stuff that they did in the past that hurt others. It comes back to them in the same exact way. But as you become first a Dvaita-vādi, a religionist, and then a Viśiṣṭādvaita-vāda, a devotee, a bhakta, and then finally a Raja Yogi on the Viśiṣṭādvaita-vāda platform, the burdens of karma get lighter and lighter. And I shared last time about the very auspicious position of Jupiter and Mars in my chart that allow me to pretty much turn poison into nectar and blow off almost any kind of karma coming from the past, both good and bad. Let me give you the example, okay? Like everybody else, I was born an animal, a selfish little brat, who thinks the whole world revolves around him. And that the highest goal of life is to get what you want. There's so many people like that. Pashu, animals. Why? Because they are viyogi. They have no yoga, no connection with God. Yoga means connection, linking. So if they have no real connection, they may even go to church and mouth some prayers, but it doesn't mean anything. Then I began to study yoga. Ordinary hatha yoga, okay? But it was with Swami Viśiṣṭādvaita-vāda, who was a disciple of Swami Shivananda, who is a very nice saint. I'm not going to say that he's enlightened, but I don't really know him well enough. But he certainly has made some very nice teachings based on the authentic Vedic views and covered the whole, 4 darshanams very nicely. So his disciple came to America and he started teaching yoga in New York, and I became his student at age 13. So this is the kind of karma I had. I used to cut school. I'd wear a suit and tie to school, right? And say, I have some kind of interview or something. And I'd cut school and I'd go into New York City and have lunch with my musician friends at the Playboy Club. I looked older than my age, and I had a very deep voice at the time, so I could pass. So after lunch at the Playboy Club, maybe we'd go jam for a little while, and then I would go to yoga class. So anyway, I started studying yoga, and about this time, I was known as a musical and physics prodigy. I did a science, what is that called? Science competition thing on a very kind of esoteric subject in physics. And let's just say I attracted some attention from certain quarters. And that and the fact that I got perfect scores on my SAT exams meant I got an offer of a full scholarship to MIT in nuclear physics. What's the catch? It was a Department of Defense scholarship, so I had to sign a contract that after graduation, after I got my PhD, I would work for them, developing weapons. I said, no thanks. That was the time of the Vietnam War, Kent State massacre, and all of the protests and stuff, and I was totally down with that. So I said, no, I'm not going to do this. Well, I went to school, got my degree in musical composition and performance, had a nice career as a composer in New York, and then I dropped all that, went to the West Coast, became a hippie, started going to all the different gurus and evaluating them. And my music teacher, my Indian music teacher, Ali Akbar Khan, introduced me to Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. So at once I knew, this is it. This is my guru. There was only one little problem. He was very strict, and I couldn't see myself following his instructions. So I said, well, I have to just stay a little apart. I can't be a full-on disciple right now. Yeah, it's okay. All right. As soon as this happened, just a few weeks later, I was contacted by I can't really talk about it in detail, but I was contacted and I got an offer that I couldn't refuse, if you know what I mean. So I found myself in New Mexico, in Los Alamos, New Mexico, at laboratories there, and later on at Sandia Labs, south of Albuquerque, working on a certain project that I can't tell you much about, except it was kind of linked with the work that I had done before in high school. So I found out later that the FBI had gone to all my hometown friends and other people that I hung out with, even my musician friends on the West Coast, and asked them about me and, what kind of person I was and this and that, because I had to have a security clearance. So anyway, for several years I worked on this, more or less secret project, and then basically it got disbanded, or either that or it went totally black, I don't know. Anyway, I was free. And so I came back out to the West Coast and met all my good old friends again, and I told them, hey, what happened, and I described my adventure, and they didn't believe it. They just didn't believe it. Yeah, we know, Dave, right, Been smoking some of that good stuff, huh? Yeah. So what to do? Anyway, so that was my karma. That was my fate. It was my destiny. I tried as hard as I could to avoid it. But in the end, I couldn't. And at the same age at which I would have graduated with my doctorate from MIT, I found myself in some secret labs in New Mexico, helping do stuff. You can't avoid your fate. You can't avoid karma. Jupiter in Scorpio is secrets. So I had Jupiter in Scorpio with Ketu, my God. Ketu is, deep, deep secrets. So those secrets are revealed to one who has the appropriate karma. And of course, the same goes for spiritual life. And later on, after all this blew over, I did become a disciple of Bhakti-Vedanta Swami. I gave up everything, my whole music career, my friends, everything. And I went to study with him. He brought me to India, and here we are. So this is karma. This is destiny. This is the divine hand that guides us in every respect of our lives. But what's the difference Between the time that I was first offered a scholarship in nuclear physics and the time that I actually wound up working on that stuff, I went from being a Pashu to a Dvaitavadi to a Viśiṣṭādvaita-vāda. So that meant the karma was modified as per the chart that we looked at last time. The karma was modified so that, in other words, instead of like being a slave under a draconian contract with the US government, I was a contractor, an independent businessman, working for a private business in a related field, which gave me access to the stuff I needed to do the project. But you see the difference? It's the same karma manifesting at the same time. But because I had leveled up in the Chaturdarshanam, I had much more independence, much more respect and autonomy from the people I was working with. They knew they couldn't piss me off too bad or I would just leave. So this is the difference, you see, and this is heavy karma. This is the kind you can't get out of. Every 12 years, Jupiter goes around. Every 12 years, the same pattern repeats again and again. I've seen it in my life now, 6 times. So here we go again, right? Jupiter is about to return to its original place in my chart, I think sometime next year. And I remember in great detail what happened, especially the last time. So I'm definitely going to modify my strategy. And you should too. You should look for these patterns. They're driven by the planets, especially Jupiter and Saturn. Saturn has a 27 to 30 year cycle, depending on where it is in its orbit in relation to the Earth. Jupiter has a 12-year cycle. Mars has a 4-year cycle. Okay, and it's the shortest one, but it can often be the most powerful one because Mars is passion. It's the energy, the fire that makes things happen. So when you're playing with fire, make sure and have a bucket of water nearby. Or sand, depending on the type of fire you might have to deal with. That's the thing about karma. There are remedies. Any good astrologer can look at your chart and recommend certain remedies for the problem areas in your chart, like wearing certain colors, or certain jewels, or chanting a certain mantra, or so on and so forth. Okay? But you have to be a little cautious because some of these guys are businessmen and they just want to sell you expensive trinkets. But the real ones will give you some sadhana that you can do that will also elevate you spiritually. And that's what we're doing here. All the teachings on this channel, if you look into them and follow them and apply them to your life, will result in spiritual growth, spiritual evolution, evolution of consciousness. And this is the real purpose. This is the real aim of life. This is what you should be doing with your life. Not wasting it being a wage slave to some corporation. Not being involved in nasty activities like military and cutthroat business and stuff like that. Don't waste your time. Make the best use of a bad bargain, as my Adi Guru would say, and use this life to get the maximum spiritual advancement. Om Tat Sat. Om Harihi Om.